Welcome to our podcast. It is called Show Me Something Wrong.
Is that the new
Yeah,
intro?
that's it.
Okay, all right, we'll go with that. Where each episode, one of us chooses a movie to watch that the other person has not seen.
Oh.
The movie is often obscure, usually strange, and always wrong. I'll keep that the same. I'm Dave.
I'm Guy.
And today I've chosen the movie, and it is Touch of Death. AKA, you ready to hear me butcher some Italian again?
Oh, please do.
AKA, Quando Alice ruppe lo specchio,
It's pretty convincing.
which translates to When Alice Broke the Mirror. And it's from 1988, and it's directed by our favorite boy, Lucio Fulci. All right. Yeah, I actually looked up each one of those words in Italian to see how you could actually pronounce it. Because if I'm just reading it as it's written, it looks like Quando Alice ruppe lo specchio.
All right, can you do it in like a real, like, thick, like, London accent now?
Quando Alice ruppe lo specchio.
Oh, have a word. He's only bloody got and done it.
All right. I thought today as well, just up the top, because we always do it at the end, but let's encourage people now to follow the Twitter.
Oh.
Just so it's at the start.
Okay.
Yeah. So follow us on Twitter, SMSW Podcast on Twitter, and please leave some lovely reviews on Apple Podcasts. Someone else did that.
Someone did that, didn't they?
It was very, very nice. We really appreciate that. And you can, of course, email us at... I was about to give my normal email address there. You can also email us.
You can send me fan mail to my home address.
My home address. You can send us emails at showmesomethingwrong@gmail.com. Yeah, I thought I'd do it up the top as well as at the end. Come on, just pumping people up a little bit.
There you go.
I also, before we dive into Touch of Death, I want to give a massive thank you to Ben. His username on Twitter and Letterboxd is Onibabadook. He really saved my ass for this episode because I have this film back in Australia. I don't have it here in Japan. And I was going to order the Blu-ray and just could not find it on Amazon Japan. So it would not arrive in time. And he helped me out with, providing me some stuff from that Blu-ray, some booklet, photos and whatnot. And that really, really helped me. So big thanks to Ben.
Thanks, Ben. Good old Ben. We like Ben.
We like Ben. But yeah, no, it was a huge, huge thank you. All right, are you ready to dive into Touch of Death?
I am so ready to dive into this.
So last time I said this episode is a sequel to one of our previous episodes.
So that's right. So just to confirm, is this part of the same series that we spoke about last time?
A few episodes ago we spoke about The Murder Secret.
That's right, yeah.
So if you haven't listened to that episode, listen to that one first. Because I'm not going to go into the same level of detail about the production.
But you gave a huge background history on the series that this film is from, right?
So just in a very brief nutshell, I'm going to give a super quick recap of it. Basically, this film, Touch of Death, is part of the same series as The Murder Secret. There were 8 films that were commissioned to be TV movies originally through lots of complicated fuck-arounds, which we talk about in The Murder Secret. They were never actually shown on TV, and they were renamed Lucio Fulci Presents. That was like the title name, and eventually released to straight to video. Later on, a few years later, Fulci reused all the gore scenes from these 8 movies in his film, A Cat in the Brain.
Banger.
Yeah, so in that episode, the Murder Secret episode, I mentioned Touch of Death, and kind of assumed that you would have seen it because you like your Fulci films. And I was so excited to hear that you hadn't seen it because this is fucking insane. It's the craziest Fulci film
The way
ever.
you pitched it to me, it was kind of just like you said, so like kind of blasé. And it's like, oh yeah, it's about the guy who kills people with disabilities.
Essentially, I think deformities.
Oh, deformities, sorry, yeah. And I was just like, oh, fucking hell. So yeah, I was pumped to be able to watch this. And very much with The Murder Secret, I was watching this and straight off the bat, I was like, there is no way this would have aired on TV. This is not allowed.
Yeah. Even more so with this one. Like, this film is
Oh, yeah.
fucked.
Yeah, this one is a banger.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about with this film. So I do have some production history stuff
Let me hear
to get
it.
into. So maybe to start off with, let's think about where we are in Fulci's career at this point in time. So this is 88. This is not Fulci at his peak. But even Fulci at his peak, he did not work with huge budgets. Like, he had some money, but money was always kind of an issue with him for his films. And do you know the actor Al Cliver? He always has a mustache. He's in fucking every single Fulci film, basically. He's in Zombie.
I'm sure
he's one of the main guys. He's
the guy with the mustache.
The guy with the mustache.
Yeah.
He's in Touch of Death as well, so we'll talk about him later. He's the bookie.
Oh,
guy
yes,
in
yes,
this.
yeah.
He's in The Beyond. He's the one that someone, I think, maybe David Warbeck shoots a window and the glass flies out and smashes into his face. So he's in a ridiculous amount of Fulci films. And I have a quote from him where he describes Fulci as being always angry, always frustrated, and he would often say, Michelangelo would use marble, and with marble you can make a masterpiece. But with me, I get a lousy piece of cement and they expect me to make a masterpiece. So that kind of sums up like Fulci's feelings on his work, right? He was never satisfied with the money he was getting, the scripts that he was getting. Yeah, he just had all through his career a pretty rough time.
Right.
And he also very famously hated Dario Argento, despised Dario Argento, mostly because of the amount of money that Argento would get. In some extra that I watched, there was a story about Fulci watching Opera, the Argento film, and it just enraging him because he's like, look at how much money this fucking guy is getting, and I get nothing.
Yeah.
So the time that Opera came out, that's when Fulci was at his lowest. This is like
Right.
the end of his career.
And the two do often get compared, don't they?
Yeah, they do get
It's
kinda-
like the Fulci team and the Argento team.
Yeah, they're very different directors, but they do often get lumped in together,
Yeah.
right? They were working at the same kind of time, and they both had very elaborate death scenes and very theatrical, but they are totally different filmmakers.
Argento's a bit more classy, isn't he?
Yeah.
Than our dirty counterpart.
I also think I'm not going to say one's better than the other. I like both directors, but I do think Fulci was much more of a, what's the word? He was a genre hopper, and he could like make films in any genre quite well. Like he made some amazing westerns, some amazing giallo, zombie films. Like he sort of went all over the place. Whereas I think Argento basically stuck to the same kind of film, mostly.
Right.
Like he dipped into supernatural a bit, but it was mostly like giallo and that kind of stuff. So yeah, very, very different directors. I like them both. I'm not gonna...
I don't dislike Argento, but I was
Yeah.
always very much on the Fulci side of things.
Yeah, I am more of a Fulci guy personally, but I do like
he
both
brought
of
the
them.
gore, and that was what I needed at the time when I was in my fucking Fulci phase.
And his films, like his peak films, they are beautiful looking films. They're incredibly atmospheric and amazing.
Great score.
Yeah, fantastic scores. This film, not so atmospheric or beautiful looking. So Touch of Death is basically, it's like bargain bin Fulci.
Yeah.
This is Fulci towards the end, and it's also a time when Italian cinema was kind of done. So another Al Cliver quote, he talks about this period for Fulci, and he says, with these movies, Fulci had nothing. All the Italian film industry went bankrupt, and there was nothing left. Like, this is the end of Italian cinema.
So you said this is towards the end of Fulci's career. Do you know when was the end of his career?
I think his last film is like 91 or 92.
Okay.
Door into Silence, I think it's like 91, 92. So he made this and a couple more films in the late 80s, and then Cat in the Brain, Voices from Beyond. And then I still like all his later films, but they're just he doesn't have a budget anymore.
Right.
His crew that he used to work with in his peak, like the same people, they're all gone. All of the kind of famous cast members are gone as well.
Was that also down to budgetary restraints, or was that just because he's an angry, grumpy man?
I think it's a bit of both.
Right.
We'll definitely talk about his grumpiness a bit later. as well.
Okay. All right.
I've got a few stories about that. But this film in particular, so not only is it a film that didn't have much of a budget, but as you know, the production of this film is absolutely fucking insane.
Yep.
So one of the the things I watched to research this podcast is from the 88 Films Blu-ray. One of the funniest and dumbest extra features I think I've ever seen on a Blu-ray. So it's like a extra feature where they interview two people involved with the film.
Okay.
One being the first AD, whose name is Michelle De Angelis. I don't know how to pronounce it, but something like that. And the other person they interview is the guy that plays the tramp in the film, the hobo guy. So just those two guys.
Okay.
And most of this extra feature is just the AD that he's speaking English, and he just says that everything's funny. He's like, oh, this guy, very funny, and just telling stories, and he's like, yeah, very funny, very funny. It's a very, very funny extra feature, but.
I gotta love that though. Like, you do get these like restoration Blu-rays, and they just try to find anyone who was involved in the production. Doesn't matter who they are, how minor they were, or whatever. You're gonna come and you're gonna have an interview, and it's gonna be great. And
to be fair, like this featurette, as dumb as it was more just the fact that it was only two people and two totally like they felt so different, the two people, but. It was actually quite interesting. Like, I got a lot of really good production information, mostly from the AD, not so much the guy that played the hobo. And it kind of gave a pretty nice insight into the chaos of making this film. So like we said, with The Murder Secret, it was part of this series of films, and the AD in this extra feature really lays out how complex this was. So this is what he says about the production of this film. So they were shooting a film series for two producers who were executive producing for another company that was executive producing for another company that was executive producing for television. So there's this insane, complex, like, string of production companies, like, all connected to each other. And that also made the budget an absolute fucking nightmare. Oh. So the budget was the equivalent of 250,000 euros in today's money. However, because of that line of production, everyone had to take their producer fees one by one. And ultimately, it ended up being like half that amount.
Right.
Because of all the money that the producers took.
Damn.
So they were working with nothing, and they were shooting it in 2.5 weeks with quite a small crew, like 20, 25 people or something like that. And then the production company that they were working with was apparently really terrible and just couldn't organize things for them. So they would have all the information of what they needed on the call sheets, and the production company just wouldn't deliver it. Oh. So Fulci was very frustrated making this film. He was always a frustrated guy.
I understand that,
The AD was saying the script of this he thought was actually quite good, but the budget and the lack of time meant that it was just too much of an undertaking, and it kind of suffered from that. The other thing I found really funny about this, it seemed like no one really wanted to work on this film.
Right.
Because it was shot in a location that was quite far away from the city. And to get to... And then the shooting days were like 15 to 18-hour days over this 2.5 week period.
That's pretty grim.
So no one really wanted to do it because they're like, oh, if we go to the shoot, we have to drive such a long time. And the AD, he only took the job because he was desperate to work with Fulci. And he was like, oh, if I take this on, I'm the one who picks up Fulci from his house and drives him to the location.
Right.
So he picked him up, and just every time he'd just be grilling him with all these questions about like the beyond and zombie and stuff like that. And apparently the first time he drove him to the location, Fulci got out and he's like, who the fuck is this guy? Why does he know so much about me? Pretty funny. But so even though it was this very stressful production, Fulci still, even at this point in his career, really put in a big effort to, make this an interesting film. And he always wanted to shoot with dollies and tracks, and he always wanted it to be like moving all the time. He wanted the image to be moving. Brett Halsey, the main actor, who we'll talk about soon, he says that about Fulci. Like, that was his thing. If the actors aren't moving, the camera has to be. So Fulci was always about movement, and he always knew what he wanted. So he would come in, be very precise, knew exactly where the camera should go. So it's not like he's some hack. He's just someone working with limited production costs and stuff. And I know how much you loved The Murder Secret. I have quite a fun comparison to The Murder Secret.
Okay.
So the AD worked on Touch of Death and The Murder Secret. And The Murder Secret, not so much a dynamic film.
It's quite bad.
Yeah. And the way it's shot is basically like, boom, there's the camera. We'll just get the scene from here.
Yeah.
Boom, here's a close-up. Not very interesting.
I mean, it just seems like a sort of television drama, you know?
Exactly, exactly. So the AD who worked with Mario Bianchi on that film, he describes Bianchi as a very nice man who didn't give a shit about the film he was making. So nice guy, very relaxed, but couldn't give a fuck about that film, which makes a lot of sense. So that's the production of the film. I also wanted to talk a little bit about Brett Halsey,
He's the main actor.
Did you know him from anything?
I recognize him, but I couldn't pinpoint where I know him from, but I've not looked him up yet.
I really wanted to talk about him quite a lot because I consider him as much a creator of the tone of this film as Fulci. This is their, ultimate collaboration.
Yeah.
The main reason I was so drawn to this film the first time I saw it was because of his performance.
It's great.
It's
so good.
Great, and it's quite weird as well. Like, it's just it's an amazing performance. He's one of the best things about the film is his performance. So yeah, I watched quite a few interviews with him trying to like work out how he came to this film. And he's a really very cool guy. He's still alive.
Okay.
He's, well, at least touch wood at the time of recording this, he's 89 years old. And every interview I watched, he's just seems like such a cool guy.
Right.
Most interviews, he was wearing a cowboy hat as well.
Oh, wow. So what's he most known for?
All right. Well, to give a history of him, so he's been around since the 50s.
Right.
Been around for a very long time. And as a teenager, he worked as a page for Jack Benny. The comedian, very, very, very famous comedian, Jack Benny.
It's not ringing any bells.
Yeah, like, just very famous, like, comedian of that time. So he worked for Jack Benny, just, as an assistant at CBS. Benny and his wife really liked him and basically presented him to Universal Studios saying, like, you should hire this guy as an actor. And they got him a contract at Universal Studios, which is pretty amazing. So already he's got like quite an amazing like Hollywood connection there with Jack Benny.
And this was like relatively early on in his
this
career.
Is when he's like maybe a teenager.
Because
so
in this film we watched today, he must be in his late 40s.
Yeah, I'd say maybe
50s?
Late 40s, early 50s, something like that. Yeah. So at this time he was maybe even like 17 or 18 or something like that, very young. His name is actually not Brett Halsey. That's his stage name.
Right.
So when he joined Universal, his name was Charles Oliver Hand. That's his real name.
Not as cool.
No. And in that kind of classic old Hollywood style, they gave him a new name. So at this time, he was working for Universal and training to be a performer. And he acted in a lot of small parts. So he's in a Creature from the Black Lagoon sequel called Revenge of the Creature. But I think it's like a tiny role, like basically an extra. And he was in a film called The Black Shield of Falworth.
Never heard of that.
I didn't know that film either, but he worked with Janet Leigh from Psycho.
Oh.
Jamie Lee Curtis's mum. Yeah. And he became good friends with Janet Leigh and ended up naming his daughter after Janet Leigh. So it's like, what the hell? These crazy connections. But then probably the most famous thing he's in. So his contract at Universal ended and he just did a lot of small roles there. And then he went freelance and started acting in a lot of juvenile delinquent films. I guess like playing wayward teens and stuff.
Yeah.
But then he ended up getting one of the main roles in the Fly sequel, Return of the Fly. So he is the fucking Fly in Return of the Fly.
Way. Oh, awesome.
Yeah, so that's his like probably you might have seen him in that if you've seen the Fly films. Yeah.
When was the Fly sequel? But we're talking about the original Fly sequel.
Yeah, the original Fly sequel. So Vincent Price is in the sequel as well. The sequel is actually, when you see like parodies of the Fly, it's often the sequel that they're doing the parody of. Like the sequel's the one that's in black and white. It's like very high. Like they're both campy, but that's extra campy. If you look up Brett Halsey the Fly, you'll see his little face on the Fly.
I'm gonna have to revisit that.
Yeah, so that was one of his big early kind of roles. So after that, in the 60s, he got invited over to Italy to make a film. And that was just kind of it for him. He stayed there for about 15 years, just in Italy as an actor. He was in everything from like swashbuckling pirate kind of films, Italian westerns, and then eventually spaghetti horror, Italian horror.
Awesome.
Yeah, so that's how he got into Italy. And I loved hearing his stories about making films in Italy are just so great. Do you know much about Italian film productions and how much of a fucking nightmare they are?
I imagine that would be very well put together.
Yeah, you are spot on about that. Yeah. So he said that the Italians were just so disorganized. Like they'd go to set and they'd be like really slowly filming and then be like, oh shit, we've only filmed like one scene. We've got so much more to do. And they'd be frantically rushing to do the rest. And they didn't give a shit about recording sound. Okay. So they never recorded live sound. So he talked about doing one scene where 5 actors in the scene were all from different countries, all speaking different languages, and the director had dogs that were just barking the whole time because of the camera sound. What? He also talks about stunts in Italy. Like Italian stuntmen had no fucking idea what they were doing, and he would often end up just doing the stunts because he was trained at Universal to do stunts. So he'd like step in and be like, this guy's gonna die if he does this.
Oh man.
So yeah,
well, it sounds like the Wild West.
Pretty amazing life to lead there. So he's in Italy for a long time. He tried to go back to Hollywood, but in Hollywood, no one gave a shit about all his work in Italy. So he couldn't really get much off the ground.
I guess he already made a name and a network for himself there. So
yeah.
So how long was he in Italy for then?
He said like about 15 years, and then I guess he went back to America and then would keep going back to Italy to do more productions because he'd get invited back. In the 80s, 1986, he was in The Devil's Honey, which is the first time he worked with Fulci. Have you seen that film? It's like a sexy, erotic
I have not seen a sexy, erotic film from Fulci.
It's a great film, actually.
Is it?
I highly recommend The Devil's Honey. It's really good.
Devil's Honey?
Yeah,
sounds
Devil's Honey. Yeah, Halsey's like, Fulci was a great technician, but had no idea how to work with actors. And the actors kind of had to work with him. So Halsey recognizes Fulci's flaws, but he did like him quite a lot. So that's why he continued to work with him. Yeah, he ended up making Touch of Death and then Demonia with him as well. I've got a pretty fun quote from Halsey about working with Fulci. So this is on Touch of Death. He says, I got along very well with Fulci. We had a meeting of the minds, you might say. Many people found him to be mean and difficult. I can remember one day coming to work and I could hear him yelling and yelling. And then he came to me and said, oh, hi, Brett, how are you? And I said, fine. And then the next minute he starts yelling again. So I think he treated Halsey really well for whatever reason. And you hear that a lot about Fulci. There were certain people that he just got along well with. But yeah, the main reason I wanted to talk about Halsey so much is that he is the reason this film is a black comedy. So the script was a normal horror film.
Right.
It was not meant to be funny at all. But when Halsey came on, he was like, I want to do something different with this.
Right.
And Fulci just was like, yeah, you know what? Go for it. You can do it. And he like gave him a lot of leeway in his performance. Essentially, Halsey basically directed the comedy scenes that are in
Interesting.
this.
So sorry. You just said, but one more time, what was this supposed to be originally? What kind of movie was it?
Just a normal horror film, basically.
Wow.
And then Halsey was the one that kind of pushed it towards what it is.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, thank God he did, because I think it makes it so much more interesting.
Yeah, without the comedy element in this film, this would not have been anywhere near as entertaining as it was.
It just adds so much to it.
That's funny, because I remember, sorry if I'm jumping ahead of myself, but I remember when we're doing the Murder Secret, and you're talking about the Fulci comedies that he's done, and I was thinking, like, I really don't fancy watching a comedy directed by Fulci, but I was watching this and I was like, if this is what Fulci can do with a comedy, like, this is great. I need to go back and watch all of the other comedies. But now you're telling me that it's actually the other guy's the main actor.
Yeah, he really brought it to this film.
Wow.
Yeah, you can tell when he talks about this film, much more than his other Fulci films, he really likes this film and he loves the kind of absurdism of it. So I see this film as a Fulci film, but also as a Brett Halsey film as well.
Interesting.
There is one thing about this film though that I think is 100% Fulci. I want to talk about it maybe after we talk about the film itself. But the one thing in this film that is 100% Fulci is the way it represents women and Fulci's problems with women.
Oh, okay.
But I want to talk about that more towards the end.
Wow. All right. Okay.
All right, so that's the production history. Shall we get into the film itself?
Oh, why don't we? Yes.
Yeah.
I watched this film twice.
Me too.
I watched it in Italian. Text you after. I was like, Dave, that was fucking amazing. And you're like, yeah, right? You watched it in English, right? Like, no, I didn't know there was a fucking another English track on it. So I did a double run of it. Both times, laughed my ass off.
Which did you prefer, the Italian or English? I mean, Italian's... I feel like the English is just so funny that's why I wanted you to watch it in English.
I guess, like you just said, with the productions, they didn't record any sound on set, so either way it would have been like overdubbed. Either way, it's like a kind of bit of a stiff dub where it doesn't really sync up. So it could have been anything. It could have been in bloody Chinese. I don't think I would have noticed much.
It is a weird thing, right? Because like Halsey is American and would have been speaking English on set, and everyone else is, I guess, speaking English but with Italian accents, and then they dub them in English. So, yeah.
But saying that, did you notice? Like, so I watched the English dub, the English version, the second time round, and even the English version starts in Italian.
Yeah.
Did you notice that?
Yeah.
I was like, what the fuck? So I text the English channel and it starts off with an Italian commentary, which then suddenly flicks to English. What the hell's going on?
Yeah, that was very confusing for me as well. Yeah. I can't remember on the DVD if it was like that as well, but yeah, I'll have to check. But yeah, I love the way this opens. I was watching this with my partner Tana, and we're like, what's wrong with the sound? And we were like pumping up the volume because the titles are just dead silent.
Oh yeah.
And then suddenly it just like blasts on. Yeah, so we've got this silent title sequence. Then finally, we kick into our first shot, which is on this driveway, sort of moving down towards this house. And as you say, we first hear Italian, that then switches into English, but we're basically hearing the sound of a radio giving horse racing
That's right,
stats,
yeah.
right? And that's like a thing that we hear throughout it, just constant horse racing
commentary. Yeah. And going towards a beautiful house as well.
Yeah, really strange house as well. Like beautiful and quite bizarre, like the layout of the house.
But the way that it's shot, because it's all like handheld, like purposely shot in the way that it's supposed to be, like almost like a Halloween-esque intro of someone approaching the house, like through their vision. Yeah, which really was kind of not necessary.
Yeah. I was thinking,
like, is this like a stalker type thing? Someone's approaching the house. There's going to be a woman in the shower. She's going to get murdered. Yeah. But it's just like some guy, I don't know, holding the camera, walking around.
It is really weird. I thought the same thing. So it's a very ugly, cheap looking shot. It's not like a typical like smooth moving Fulci sort of shot. Very wobbly, and you're like, yeah, exactly that. I thought exactly the same thing. Like it's like a Halloween opening, but there's no payoff to it. Yeah. I mean, I guess maybe you could argue like it fits into the themes later in the film, maybe, but that might be a bit of a
shadow with the cameras.
So we get into the house, the radio's getting louder. We meet our hero, Lester, inside the house. Anti-hero, played by Brett Halsey. And I love, there's like this shot that we see quite a bit where we're hearing the sounds of the horse racing stuff on the radio, and then it zooms in on his ear as he's listening to it. It's just really weird. Just such a strange shot. But yeah, he's going through the house, just walking around. Then he's got a hunk of meat.
He's like eating the biggest slab of steak I've ever seen in my life.
Very bloody. And he's like cooking it on this like little cooker thing on this saucepan. Already, I fucking love his performance because he's so pompous. Like, he plays this role like he's such a cunt, right? Yeah. He's got this little smirk on his face, and he's like breathing in the meat, all like, you know, like this sort of rich, pompous guy smirking the whole way through.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's so funny.
He's eating that steak blue. He's literally just have you ever had a blue steak before?
What's that?
It's like, so that's, you know, you got like rare.
Right,
But then a grade above rare is blue. And it's literally, you just sear the outsides of it.
Right,
it's completely raw in the middle. Yes. So he's eating this steak blue.
Yeah.
And watching the grossest woman on TV I've ever seen in my life.
This is like the beginning of the intense misogynist to the stuff in this. So all the women in this film have been made up to look absolutely horrible. And yeah, there's this very strange video of this woman that he's watching. It's like all like home video sort of footage, and it's really sexual.
She's like dancing,
she's
naked,
stripping and like moaning as well. Yeah, and she's been like given like a facial mole and stuff. There's like a lot of weird, makeup added to her. And Les is like, "Good morning." to the video.
Fucking hell, she could scare a police horse. Jesus Christ, she was grim.
It's quite full on. I don't think it's not like the actress is like a hideous person. It's just the film has made her look comically awful, like just like a cartoon.
Yeah. And he's watching this gross-ass woman, like, dancing naked, blowing kisses to him on TV, whilst eating this, like, raw bit of meat.
What an opening.
And it's a knockout of an opening. And that's him in meat is mate...
Reginald.
The cat.
So, there's a cat that we see quite a lot, and he gives the cat some meat.
Oh, yeah.
And do you remember what he says?
Oh, what does he say?
Don't worry, Reginald. You'll always get your cut.
That's right. That's right.
So then,
I love Reginald.
I love Reginald, but there's one thing I hate about this film that involves Reginald, which we'll get to later. Yeah. But then after the video,
in a sentence that just sounded so funny. One thing in this film that involves Reginald. It just dawned on me what a ridiculous name that is for a cat.
It is a hilarious name.
You'll always get your cut, Reginald.
If I get another cat, I'm going to name him Reginald for sure. So the horse racing stats kind of thing like kicks in again as he's eating that steak. As he's eating, we get a fucking cool shot. Like, so we've had that ugly handheld shot, but now we get this kind of beautiful, either dolly or Steadicam shot, like moving away from him as he's eating. And then down the hallway, going down in this, I don't know how you describe the music, classic, like 80s horror kind of music playing. The composer of this film, by the way, his name's Carlo Maria Cordio. I looked up his credits. So many fucking shitty Italian films, including Troll 2.
Oh, wow.
It's funny, like, everyone that's worked on this has, like, worked on so many other films of this time. It's just, like, Italian cinema of this time is just so incestuous, right?
Oh, yeah.
The camera goes down some stairs, and like now it's suddenly handheld, so it's very ugly at this point. And we go into this basement. The door opens, and what do we see down there?
Well, we see a corpse of a woman on a kind of almost like a dissection table, isn't it? We can see a big chunk has been cut out of her upper, like her thigh area. And that's when I was like, oh, that's the girl from the TV.
Yes. Yeah.
And I didn't actually realize it the first time I watched it. Because I didn't know like why she had a bit of a leg missing. I thought, because it kind of looked just like a wound. It didn't look like a cut mark, the way it was kind of, the way the special effects was done. And I was like, oh my God, he's eating her. Yeah. He's eating her.
What a reveal. It's so fucked. So yeah, exactly as you say, you like see that chunk of flesh and it's like, oh my God, that's the steak that he was eating, and he's feeding to it.
Reginald.
Yeah, Reginald's eating a human woman. Oh my God. I love though when they reveal the chunk of flesh missing, we get the most classic Fulci shot. So, you know, whenever there's like gore in a Fulci film, he just zooms in.
Oh yeah.
And there's like this big zoom into that
Fulci
chunk.
zoom, yeah. I loved it. And then we got classical music playing. And
it's ridiculous. The music is so ridiculous. There's like whimsical classical music.
Like you said, but he's so pompous, like you said. He's like listening to this classical music, like, looking at this woman with a fucking leg missing, and pulls out a bloody chainsaw.
Yeah, so he's like finished his steak, I guess.
That's a lot of meat to eat. Fucking
smash down. Then comes in whistling and humming along and like kind of bobbing his head to this music. So I guess the music is
just
like
listening to it
in the scene.
Yeah.
It's diegetic somehow. Yeah, he pulls out a chainsaw and we get this absolutely fucked, like really vicious of him chopping this body up. Yeah. It's quite sickening.
awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
Literally just cutting all her limbs off, cutting her in half, cutting the head. Does he do the head as well?
Yeah, he does.
I know
it
he
all.
cuts straight through her abdomen.
Yeah, he chops off all her limbs, and then
and the whole time
chops
this
her head off.
music's playing, and he's just like, it's almost like he's smelling his own farts whilst he's cutting her into pieces. He's loving it. And I was gonna ask, so is this the same guy who did the special effects for The Murder Secret?
Yes, it is. I was actually just about to say that. So could you tell it was like quite similar?
Yeah, and the way you put it last time, you said there's an ugliness to his special effects, and that was so apparent in this show. It is really grimy and gross.
Yeah, his name is Pino Ferranti.
Right.
So he did most of Fulci's stuff of this time period, and there's just an ickiness to it, right? Yeah,
There's some irksomeness.
It's very irksome. I have one little running thing I want to do throughout this. So, do you know the IMDb goofs section?
Oh yeah, love the goof section.
Oh, it's so funny because like often they're just like they're not really goofs, right? It's like just stupid shit that's like not a goof. So the goof, there's a lot of goofs for this film that I found very funny. Here's one goof for this scene. Woman mutilated with a chainsaw at the start of the movie is obviously replaced with a clearly fake doll when violence is shown.
What?
It's like, is that a goof?
I've never seen anything like that in a goof section. That's ridiculous.
The goof section is just full of like these sort of annoying nerds, I guess,
so
making comments
dumb.
like that.
Often you see like stuff like the boom mic dips into frame or something.
That's a goof. Yeah,
That's a goof.
Yeah.
Not like, oh, that's clearly not a real person getting cut up with a chainsaw.
So I got a few. I've got
guy
a few
who wrote
goofs.
that's a fucking goof.
Hope he doesn't listen to this episode.
Bloody goof.
So he chops the body's limbs off, chops her in half down the middle. Then we cut to him sort of pushing her guts through this meat grinder. And he's like humming along to the movie soundtrack. It's so absurd. And then he takes all the guts that he's ground up in a bucket. Also, one thing just to go back to him chopping up that was quite funny when I was watching this with Tana. She's like, he doesn't have a drop of blood on him.
Oh yeah.
He's like perfectly managed to avoid getting messy.
There's clearly nothing going on under the camera.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, so he takes the guts out to a barn, and there's all these pigs.
Apparently he has pigs.
He's got these dirty pigs, and poor pigs. I shouldn't call them dirty pigs. Well, it just gave me a flashback to what was that awful movie we watched where all those pigs got horribly killed?
Red spells red.
Oh God, poor pigs.
Poor pigs.
Anyway, luckily these pigs, nothing bad happens to them. But he throws all the meat guts out for the pigs. And one thing I found really funny that I've always noticed every time I watch this film, I forget, and it makes me laugh again. In amongst all the meat, there's like oranges.
Is there?
So it's like clearly like the pigs were not keen to eat some meat, so they've like put some like fruit in there to get the pigs all like. Now that's a goof. You can put that in the IMDb goofs. It's not only guts. There's oranges in the meat. And so the pigs are chowing down on those dirty guts, and Lester's like,
We all get a fair share.
Beautiful opening.
yeah, very
Knockout
very,
opening.
Yeah, knockout opening, and a lot of communist kind of vibes in this opening. Feeding Reginald, we all get our share.
Yeah.
That sort of stuff doesn't really come back.
That's what I was going to say. There's a lot of like half-baked ideas in here. Because
Definitely.
him apparently being a cannibal, that never comes back into play.
Yeah.
And the pigs, we never see them again.
Yeah,
He never cuts up any other bodies.
That is
So there's
true. Yeah.
It seems to be just like a lot of stuff for these, like this one particular scene, but never many recurring things like that.
You are spot on, definitely. Yeah, that is so true. I didn't even think about the cannibal thing. The fact that doesn't come back.
It's so subtle. Like they don't make a deal out of him eating people.
Yeah. I guess it's like he's just trying to dispose of the body, but he does seem to be really enjoying
He's loving it.
that steak. Yes, this film, there's a lot of very odd shifts and changes throughout it.
It's a bit of a mess. It's a bit of a mess.
Oh, it's a mess, yeah. Talking about messes, I found this next bit quite a mess. I was very confused. So the house that we've been in, that's Lester's house, because we see it throughout it. But then we see him in his car And in the window, there's a horse racing pamphlet. So I'm like, okay, so he's going to the tracks, I guess, to watch a horse race, maybe, but
he drives.
I don't know. And then he's just home again. So I could not fathom what was going on.
I thought that a lot throughout this movie. Like, so wait, why is he here now? Like, where are we?
It is a bit confusing. Yeah, on the second viewing, I was like, wait, was the beginning meant to be that woman's house? But no, it's not, because we see it throughout it as his house. But anyway, very confusing. But he's back at the house.
He's back home.
So that was totally pointless, him driving somewhere. And we see a painting of his dead wife, Eunice Parson. And he says, "Good morning" to it. "Good morning, my adorable little wife," I think he says. And he opens up the painting, sort of pulls the painting out, and there's a hidden safe behind it.
Classic safe behind the painting.
And he takes a bunch of money out of the safe and then is looking at that horse racing pamphlet that he's got. And he calls up his bookie, Randy.
Randy the bookie.
This is one of my favorite lines, is him talking to this bookie. He says,
Well, of course I'm recording our call. Why should I trust a crook like you?
he makes all these bets over the phone, and they're like big bets.
Yeah.
Like $5,000 on multiple horses, right?
I love it. Back when, like, making bets by phone was a thing.
Yeah.
And that's also something that pops up a few times. And like, oh yeah, that was a thing back in the day before the internet. And
So he makes a few bets, turns on the TV, and sees something quite interesting on the TV.
So there's a TV report, and it's the discovery of a woman's body. It's the widow of a famous jeweler, and we see her picture, and that's the woman who's just been fed
Chopped
to the
up.
pigs.
Fed to the pigs, yeah.
Eaten by Reginald.
It's a weird moment, right? So we see, they're saying they found the remains of this local woman, and Lester's just shocked by this.
Because he's chopped her up.
Yeah.
And eaten her.
Yeah.
And fed him to his pigs and cats and who knows what else.
Very strange.
But they found the remains of her body.
What the hell is going on?
So he's in shock. And he has a way of coping with his shock, right?
Yeah.
Which I found very interesting. And kind of like our first glimpse into his madness, which I liked. So he has tape recordings of himself talking.
Yeah, it's not really confirmed that it's him, right? But it is his voice.
It's his voice, and we kind of only assume he's recorded his voice being his kind of partner in consultation. So he's like, oh, but what does he say? He's like, how would they have found the body? He's like, don't worry, they won't find you.
Yeah. He basically, he hits play on this tape recorder, and we hear that music again, right? Which is part of the recording too. And he's like, how did this happen? What's going on? And the voice just keeps telling him like, no, don't worry. Like, it's just a coincidence. It's another woman. They were just two rich widows. You know, they both got dismembered, but don't worry. It's just a coincidence. And Lester's like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah. I loved it because it's kind of like he's his own voice of reason.
Yeah.
And he's trying to like persuade himself he's all right when he's clearly going mad.
Yeah. It's a very interesting trope throughout it.
Yeah.
Also, just back to the TV reporter as well, briefly. Did you recognize who that was?
No.
So the newscaster is someone we've met before in the Murder Secret. So that's played by Maurice Polly, who is Thomas, the caretaker in the Murder Secret.
Thomas!
Yeah. And not our first connection to the Murder Secret. We're going to meet someone else later.
Oh, I'm psyched. Wait,
Who's
Thomas,
also
he's the maggot kisser, isn't he?
Yeah, the maggot kissing man.
And now he's here doing news. He's a new
it's
broadcaster.
such a weird role, like very small role.
He did well for himself, didn't he? Got from maggot kissing to reporting the news.
But yeah, so he has this weird back and forth with the tape recording. Hits stop. The music stops as well when he hits stop. So it's kind of confirmed that weird tune is like part of the film soundscape.
It's just playing in all the rooms wherever he goes.
So weird, but we cut quite harshly to him in this sort of weird, walking towards this weird abandoned building. Yeah, he knocks on this door in this abandoned kind of big sort of building and is let into this room. And he enters this room and there's a guy on a computer and the other guy is Randy, played by Al Cliver, Mustache Man, that I mentioned before.
Oh, Oh, yeah.
So yeah, just quickly about Al Cliver, just a little tangent on him. So this is stuff I didn't know about him, so this is really interesting for me because I always see him in Fulci films. Al Cliver is not his real name. I always thought he was American,
Right.
but he is an Italian actor. His real name is Pierluigi Conti.
That's different.
Yeah, very different. But one thing I found fascinating about him, because his voice is always the same in every film that he's in, and he always, I guess, just by chance, got dubbed by the same American actor. Nick Alexander would always dub him in his films.
Is that a thing by chance? Is that not decided?
I don't know, but
bizarre.
like I think that's quite a rare kind of occurrence. So I'm like, fuck. So that wasn't his real voice this whole time.
Interesting.
Kind of blew my mind. But yeah, he's in so many Fulci films.
Yeah.
So as we said before, Fulci, very grumpy on sets, maybe not a pleasant person to work with, yet Cliver just kept working with him right until the end. And yeah, he says in an interview that Fulci would be abusive, unpleasant, shout at everyone, yet he still gave me a phone call whenever he needed something. So for some reason, like, he just knew that Al Cliver could handle him at his worst, basically.
Right. He was one of the few that actually got on with him. Or,
I think maybe they didn't get on, but Cliver just dealt with him. And so Fulci kind of relied on him quite a lot. But anyway, Lester comes in. These are his bookies, right? His horsemen.
Textbook bookies. They got the whole, like, very stereotypical bookie outfit down to a fine tee, hasn't he?
Look who's here. I was just wondering to myself if Lester Parson could pick the winner in a one-horse race, even if it were fixed.
Randy's just like bullying Lester from the beginning, just laughing at his shitty ability to pick horses.
He's a born loser, apparently, isn't he? Oh, man.
So Randy's like, yeah, you owe me money, all this sort of stuff. Lester gives him a big stack of money that we assume that he's stolen from that woman that he's murdered. Al Cliver takes the like stack of money and bites it. So that's not something you do.
That's not a thing.
Yeah, Lester starts asking Randy for more credit. Randy's like, no way, you're not to be trusted. And then a helicopter starts flying overhead. We hear the sounds of a helicopter, and Randy and his mate that's in there on the computer, they start freaking out and they pack up and just run off, leaving Lester alone.
That was very confusing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It does come back later, but I was like, what's happening now?
Yeah. Strange.
Oh dear. So he's put a big bet on, or paid back some debts or whatever. But either way, we know now he's shit at gambling and he loses all the time.
He's a big time loser.
He is.
Old Lester.
He is. But then we get one of my favorite scenes.
Oh yeah.
Not my not the best scene, but one of my favorite, like, reoccurring tropes of this movie, which is of him at home scrolling through the dating ads and reading the dating ads, like, out loud or in his voice or something. And so he's at home scrolling through the dating ads, and you get the voiceover, and the lady's like, I'm still what you call a very attractive woman. I'm financially well off. Will I ever find my soulmate? And he's there like,
Oh, you found him, my dear. You found him.
and then we just cut to the most jarring cut ever of a fucking bearded lady. And he's like kissing her hairy face and tits, and he's like just clearly repulsed, grimacing while she's orgasming out a fucking big old hairy beard.
Oh, darling. Oh my God. Oh, Lester. I love you, darling.
It's so full on, that cut.
It's so bizarre.
Yeah, because it cuts straight to her face.
Yeah.
Like moaning. And as you say, she's got a mustache and a beard, like a light beard.
Yeah.
And her boobs are like covered with like hairy moles. So they've just made up this woman so ridiculously, like horrendously ugly makeup. And yeah, he's kissing her, hating it, and picking hairs out of his teeth. But his performance in this is so funny. Like, you really buy his utter disdain.
His face is so believable. He is like, I am not enjoying this. But I love it, just like the transition from that. And he sounds so confident in the way he speaks, which he does throughout the whole film. He's like, you already found him, my dear. And then he's just like, ugh! Like, we cut to him just like heaving, pulling out fucking pubes from his teeth. It's gross.
Did you recognize the woman?
No.
So the actress in this is Sacha Darwin, who is Aunt Martha from The Murder Secret.
Oh, of course she was.
Yeah. So we've got two Murder Secret.
Jesus, the maggot face lady.
Yeah, the maggot face lady. So,
bloody hell.
Yeah, so she doesn't normally have a beard. They've made her up to look like this. Yeah.
And Lester's recording it as well.
Yeah, she's like moaning and going nuts, and we see like a video camera recording the whole thing. Again, as you said, a lot of half-baked ideas.
Because that's not a recurring... That doesn't ever come back. Why is he recording it? We don't know.
No.
He's only just making evidence against himself.
It's true. It's not helping him.
And it's not like... He doesn't even enjoy looking at these women because they're so, like, repulsive looking. So it's not like he's gonna, like, watch them and, like, fucking jerk off to them later. He's just gonna see himself picking out pubes from his teeth and kissing this bearded lady. There's no point in recording it.
Yeah, it is so weird. Like, it's such a bizarre detail to add in. But I also love it as well. Like, it's just so strange. Like, why did they choose to do that? Yeah, so after this horrendous beard kissing scene, we cut back into the living room area.
Oh.
And then this scene is...
Oh my God.
I think this is the moment for me where I'm like, this is a special film.
Yeah.
Because it is insane, this sequence. So this bearded widow, rich widow, Margie is her name, she's dancing about really drunk. And Lester's like spinning her around until she gets dizzy. And he sits her down, and the way this is shot, so fucking jarring. Because he's doing, I can't remember what you call it, but you know when you track in and zoom out, or vice versa. So it's got this like really dizzying kind of effect to the scene.
I loved how long this scene was.
Long.
As you just mentioned, his facial expressions
It's amazing.
are just so amazing. You really feel his disdain and just like, what's the phrase? He's just had enough.
Yeah, he's so exhausted.
Clearly not enjoying this, and you just feel all the pain in his face.
It's like pure, like exhaustion at this situation, right? So, this is the first of an extended kind of comedy sequence. This basically comedy murder attempt sequence. As she's like drunk and making all kinds of weird moans and stuff, he's trying to pour her a glass of champagne and poison it.
So she sat on the sofa, pissed out of her mind, and he's like, oh, let me fetch you a drink, darling.
Yeah.
And he kind of does this dance over to the drink cabinet, and he's like, kind of like flinging his arms back and forth, and he's like grooving over to it. And every time he keeps having to go back and forth, and his dance kind of gets a little less kind of motivated each time, but he's still kind of half like flailing his arms, dancing over.
His performance is fucking great. Like, it is really genuinely funny what he's doing here. Yeah, so he poisons the champagne and brings it over. He's just sort of desperately trying to make her drink, but she just won't shut up. She's just like talking nonstop. What did he say? He's like, I'm trying to seduce you. That's why I'm getting you to drink. And she's like, oh, but you've already seduced me. And then he makes some kind of comment of like what he's got in store, like some sexual play he's got in store. And that's enough for her to get so excited that she smashes the drink down. And like, this is my favorite moment of his performance. When she smashes the drink, his face... This look of rage, but like kind of bottled in anger on his face. Oh, it's so perfect.
And that's it. And he's like, oh, don't worry, let me fetch you another. And he he does that little like dance walk back to the drink cabinet.
So he pours her another, but she's like demanding that he has one too. When he agrees to have one himself, he's like smiling at her and then turns his face away, and the change in his face is it's beautiful.
Beautiful.
He brings over the other, like the next two drinks. One's poisoned. Then she asks for a cigarette. He's like, all right, fine. And he puts the 2 cigarettes in his mouth and he's lighting the 2. And then as he's lighting them, he looks over to her and she's got the 2 drinks in her hand, sort of mixing them up back and forth. And there's the number 1 funniest shot of the film. His face staring at her with the 2 cigarettes hanging out of his mouth is fucking amazing.
It's great because you get the Fulci zoom and it's in his face and he's gobsmacked with these 2 cigarettes hanging down looking like fucking walrus tusks.
God.
Cannot believe what he's seeing.
Oh, it's so fucking funny. It's such a great shot.
Which is the one I gave you?
Oh, what's the matter? I don't know, one of the 2 of them. Come on, darling. Here's to us.
And then eventually he's like, all right, you've been drinking too much. How about I make you a bicarbonate soda?
That's it, he's had enough.
And he's again getting increasingly annoyed, starts poisoning the soda. He's
doing his
still
dance.
dancing as he brings it over to her dancing. And he forces her to drink this poison drink, holding her nose, and she's gulping it down. But immediately she starts reacting and feeling sick and runs over to the bathroom. And he's like, God damn it, smashes the glass. And then it just cuts to her in the bathroom just puking. And it's the grimmest, ugliest shot of vomiting I think I've ever seen. It's just so harsh, like the lighting's really bright and it's just so gross. Oh, man. So funny. Lester takes out a massive stick.
Yeah.
Like a big club kind of stick, sort of out of nowhere. Goes into the bathroom. She sees the stick, starts freaking out, and he just pummels her with this stick. And we've gone from this ridiculous comedy scene to such a fucking violent scene.
This scene is probably the most violent scene of the whole film.
Oh yeah, it is.
And it's so long.
It's outrageous.
Yeah.
It is angrily violent. It's a scene that feels full of fucking rage and hatred. It's quite full on. Yeah, he smashes her in the head and she runs away.
They do the psycho music.
Yeah.
Or a rendition of, and she's running down the hallway, dude, and he's chasing her with this big old stick. I was like, come on, they can't do that. Which also kind of goes back to,
The secret again.
they do the shower, don't they?
But like did you see her when she trips over? That's like the most painful looking fall I think I've ever seen on film, because it's the actress doing it.
Yeah.
And it looks awful like when she falls. It made me like gasp watching it. Like a back-breaking moment. But yeah, she's on the ground, he just starts hammering her head. And like her skin's like ripping off.
That's it.
And
every time the stick impacts her face, it rips another chunk of her face off.
Her eyeball
It's
pops
so
out.
intense, yeah.
Her eye gets like knocked out of her head. Absolutely fucked. And there's a shot of he like whacks her on the forehead and it kind of splits open and blood's like bursting out.
It's so intense. It's so intense. And it doesn't even stop there.
Yeah.
She still somehow runs to the kitchen. Challenge, she's been poisoned.
She's been poisoned. She's been battered to bits.
Her eyeball's missing.
Eyeball's gone. She's drenched in blood.
Head is split open.
Yeah, head split open. She runs into the kitchen. The colors of this scene are so intense as well. It's like so garishly bright, almost like soap opera looking with these like bright pinks and pastel blues. Like it's so ugly looking. But yeah, she's like run into the kitchen and he knocks her out, like punches her in the face and then shoves her head into the oven where she fucking melts. Her head melts.
He melts her to death. And you get the shot from inside the oven as you watch her face melt into nothing.
Oh my god, yeah.
What a scene.
And here's my second IMDb goof for you.
Oh, goof me up.
When Lester shoves woman's head into the oven, it melts, which wouldn't happen because her skin instead would start to get burned.
Whoever wrote that was a bloody goof.
It is quite funny though that she melts like a wax statue.
I know. That's not a real head. That's a bloody goof. That's
a goof.
That's clearly a bloody mannequin or a wax head.
Clearly this woman doesn't actually die. It's clearly not real.
So he's melted her to death after bludgeoning and poisoning her to death also. Wraps her up, puts her in the trunk of the car, which is another Great scene. Loved it. So
I couldn't tell if you were gonna love or hate this film because of scenes like this.
I was cracking
Oh,
up.
that's good,
I was
that's good.
absolutely which is so good because after watching the Murder Secret where nothing happens,
Yeah.
I mean this film has everything. You got the gore, you got the comedy. Well, that's about it really. So he's got her wrapped in a bloody like carpet, puts her in the trunk, and her legs keep popping out the top.
Yeah.
So he keeps putting one leg down and the next leg pops out. So he put her next leg down, then both the legs pop out. And it's this ridiculous back and forth.
It goes for
and
ages.
It goes on for so long, but every time you keep getting these shots of his face where he's really just like, he's just had enough. He doesn't want to do this.
He's so like unenthusiastic
I
about this.
know. And then the legs keep popping out. So he hammers them off.
Yeah.
He hammers off her foot.
What was that he like has like this weird object and he just whacks off her feet?
It's so goofy. It's such a dumb comedic moment, which
Yeah.
could be in any dumb comedy film.
Yeah.
But the fact that we've just seen a woman get her head melted off, the fact that it's in this scene directly after that
Yeah.
is awesome.
It's so tonally insane.
Yeah.
This film is great. So yeah, after this ridiculous comedy scene, he takes her to a construction site. He dumps her body and pours concrete all over it. Very sloppy job. Not a good body disposal. And then as he drives off, a tramp, a homeless man, played by Marco Di Stefano.
He's your mate from The Extras,
From
isn't
The
he?
Extras, yeah.
Hey.
He's in, not the Ricky Gervais show extras, but the extra features on the Blu-ray. We see this guy being interviewed as one of the two people getting interviewed in this featurette. And he's a kind of odd guy. He's got like a Charles Manson-esque symbol on his forehead.
I thought that was just mud. I thought he was just a dirty homeless man.
It's like a little symbol on his forehead.
Really?
Yeah,
I thought he
yeah.
was just dirty.
I mean, it might be, but it's formed a weird Charles Manson-esque symbol on his forehead. Yeah, so he's seen the body dumping, basically. So then we go back to Lester, and we do see a video again. So he's watching a video of Margie, the bearded lady, and she's in a bathtub, just sort of babbling and moaning at the camera. It's very weird. And Lester, while this video is playing, he's looking through this box of jewelry that he's stolen from her. And yeah, then he gets dressed in a suit, gets into his car. But who's in the bloody car?
The bloody homeless man, Charles Manson.
Old mate, what was his name? Marco Di Stefano is in there, picking his nose in a very cartoonish kind of way, which I found quite funny. And this tramp, he blackmails Lester. And right after blackmailing him, so he blackmails him, Lester gives him some money. He's like, oh, thanks. Anyway, how do I get back into town?
What's the way back to the city?
Yeah.
Through the forest, right?
Yeah, go through that, quiet little forest area. We cut to the tramp walking back through the woods. Suddenly a car comes blasting down. Lester's in the car, chasing him down in the car.
Psycho music playing.
Over the top. And the tramp's just like running and running and running. This is the one bit of interesting info I got in that featurette. The tramp said that like Fulci loved this shot of the tramp running so much that he just kept filming it for ages, and and he never knew when the scene was going to end, so he just like kept running and running, and he was just this absolute mess after it from all the running that he had to do.
It was a pretty good shot at the camera, like on the bonnet of the car, and it's kind of like weaving back and forth and swerving.
It is a good shot, but every time I watch this film, I'm like, mate, just run into the woods, get off the road.
Yeah, you would, wouldn't you?
But yeah, eventually Lester hits him with the car and just like runs him over, like, over and over and over and over again.
This is very much a Blood Diner-esque moment.
Yes.
Just keep going back and forth until he's completely pulverized and his guts are completely hanging out.
Yeah. He's done.
He's done
for. And interestingly enough, this is the last bit of gore that we're going to see in the film.
I was going to mention that.
We've still got 50 minutes left of the film. Yeah. That's the last time we see any gore. For a film that was so insanely gory for its first 30 minutes or so, that's it.
Which is a shame that it kind of just really dwindles down after this point.
It changes a lot at this point. It becomes a very different sort of film. I still like it a lot, thanks to Brett Halsey's performance, but there is no more.
Was there a
gore.
reason for that? Was it like budgetary or?
Could be, I don't know, but I really felt that watching it this time. Yeah, like at the beginning, I'm like, fuck, this film's so great and so crazy. And then it does really kind of, take a bit of a... No, I still enjoy it, but it's not as fun as it is in that first 30
It's really
minutes.
just the chainsaw scene, that hammer scene with the oven. Like, the running over as well. It's not... It's,
it's
you can
nothing
see...
much, yeah.
But those two scenes are so intense and so graphic that it's a shame that they didn't continue on from here.
Surely it must have been budget, because Fulci loves his gore. He might have just run out of money.
Even regardless of like budgetary restraints, the theme of the movie changes a lot from here as well. So maybe it would have been hard to keep on as we did up until this point, because it changed into a different movie. It gets a bit weird. It's not just the man killing people anymore. It gets
extremely strange at this point. So he's killed this homeless guy, and then we're back to him watching the news. Got a different newscaster, not Murder Secret guy. He's talking about the body of the bearded lady being found in her apartment. And it's describing the crime in detail. And then the newscaster also says there's a vagrant who helped give information, who's in the hospital recovering.
Yeah.
So Lester's like, what the fuck's going on here?
I liked that. I really liked that, because we just saw him get run over until his guts were hanging out.
Yeah.
But he apparently survived with minor injuries or whatever. And then you're like, wait, is that could he have survived? And that was it was great, because you kind of second guess yourself as well as the viewer. I was like, well, I saw that he got run over, and I know that there was blood, but I don't know to what extent he was really, really run over by it. So it almost kind of made me second guess myself as the viewer. Like we said about the tape as well, it's kind of those slight early insights of Lester going mad.
Yeah, I think a lot of this, it's like, well, is a lot of what we're watching not real as it is in his mind? It's kind of like American Psycho in a way, right? Where it doesn't give you the whole story.
And this is where we get the first of the many witness descriptions, which I love. This is the one reoccurring theme of this film, which is absolutely amazing.
There's a bit towards the end that's one of the funniest things. We'll get to that.
Because it keeps getting better and better. So apparently there's a witness description from the homeless man, and the killer is a tall man who wears circle rim glasses, and he's got black hair. So Les is like, oh, fuck, they're onto me. I've got to change the way I look. So he puts in contacts, shaves his beard, and does he dye his hair that time? Not yet. That's later.
But what I loved here is, like, now he actually looks like Brett Halsey. So, like, once he shaved, it's like, oh, shit, there's Brett Halsey. There's the guy I know. So... Yeah, he looks really different. He really has like changed himself a lot. Yeah,
it's one of his first of many transformations to elude the police. I love it.
So Lester, he's changed his appearance. He goes down to the docks. Yeah, he goes to a pawn shop sort of guy, like a guy. I don't know. It's very weird. It's just in the docks, and he just goes and sees this guy, and he's trying to sell him the jewelry that he's stolen, and the guy's like, this stuff's all costume jewelry. It's the same sort of thing you get from a box of Cracker Jack. So he's like, nah, mate, I'm not buying this.
Yeah. Which is also odd. Like, 'cause that's from the beard. He stole that from the bearded lady.
It's just a strange...
Isn't she supposed to be like a millionaire or something?
Who knows? It's all very
so pointless.
Odd.
It's so pointless. I don't know if this was another one of like those like early insights or preludes of him going mad. But yeah, it just didn't really make much sense. But next, we get my favorite scene of the whole film.
Oh, really? What's
when he's back to the dating apps?
Oh, just before we get there.
Oh, yeah?
Can I just say a shot that I loved?
Oh, was there one?
So he's back in his car, going back to his house, and again, we've got the horse riding playing, and again, we just get a zoom in on his ear.
What's that? What are the ears
I don't
about?
know, it was just so strange. I'm just like, what? Why did they think that this was a good idea to zoom in on his ear there? And also in that bit where he's driving back, this is all shot in Italy, right? So shot 20K around Rome, but they wanted to make it look like America. And the AD in that extra feature, he's like, yeah, we changed all the signs. So all the signs you're seeing are American signs.
Right.
And he's like so proud of that in the extra feature. And he's like, oh, it was very funny to do that. I just thought that was a hilarious touch.
Awesome.
Sorry, and then your favorite bit. So back to the Lonely Hearts column. Yeah.
This scene had me dying. I was fucking creasing up so bad. I have no idea. So Lester is back in his home reading the dating app section. And he get another one of his voiceover, like in his head voiceovers. And it's Alice, soprano who's tired of singing solos, seeking a tenor who'd like to perform songs and violent love. and then he goes, and he starts singing. He goes,
Oh. I'm sure she would prefer someone deeper than a tenor. It's a little too shrill, Reginald.
a little too shrill, Reginald. And then we cut to the most ridiculous shit I've ever seen. Yeah. It's so fucking dumb. So you got Alice, the soprano, singing this really kind of like almost like operatic falsetto singing, just like
that's awful.
And he's kind of just looking at her, and she's singing, and she fucking slaps him in the face.
Yeah, gives him a big slap right across his face.
And then he just starts slapping her, but she's still singing.
Yeah.
She's doing this ridiculous falsetto singing, and he's just slapping the shit out of her, and still singing at the same time. And it was at this point I was at home, and my partner walks into the room and just watches this woman singing, getting slapped in the face. And she's like, "What the fuck are you watching?" And then we, I guess, cut to their post-love sleep. She's sleeping, but she's still singing. She's like snore singing, and she's like, it's so stupid.
I love Brett Halsey in this scene. His performance is so funny. He's just disgusted by her. Like every time she's like, he just looks over with this look of hate on his face.
Like, he's like, Jesus Christ. But I mean, I don't know where the idea of someone sleep singing came from, but I remember I was watching, I was like, if this is Fulci's comedies, this is fucking amazing. And it's so stupid. Oh, dude, it cracked me up. So he's had enough. He goes he starts like rummaging around her belongings and finds a whip, and he starts like tightening it around her throat, wrapping it around her, and she's still singing. She's going, and as he like pulls it taut, she goes really high pitch. She's like, whoa! And then chokes her off.
But yeah,
it's so stupid.
It's so dumb. But yeah, this is like the beginning of it being, it's just not gory anymore, right? It's a very like bloodless, pure, just dumb comedy death, basically.
Yeah.
Like, singing as she's getting strangled. Did you also? I guess like you only knew this film as Touch of Death, right?
Yeah.
So as I said, the other title, that Italian title, translates to When Alice Broke the Mirror. It's kind of confusing. They've got this character called Alice, but she's not an important character at all. Like I know that the title's like a reference to Alice in Wonderland, but it's like, why did you fucking name a very unimportant character Alice?
That is a very good point. Yeah. I wonder, but you do get those things like when someone has like really shrill, high pitched singing and like the windows break and stuff. I wonder if it's taken from that. But even so, she's such an unimportant character.
Yeah, such a minor scene, right? Like it's ridiculous. But yeah, he's murdered her, and I guess he's in her house because then he's rummaging around and finds her money hidden in a pool table. He's sort of lifting off the ends of the table and pulling out these stacks of money. But yeah, then we've got this weird moment where after he's found the money, there's a pile of cards on the table and he flips one over and it's the ace of spades. And his reaction, I don't know how to describe it, but he's like, at first a bit surprised,
Yeah.
and then he's like, "Eh," he kind of shrugs.
Yeah.
And I had to look this up because I'm like, what? I don't. Is this a famous thing?
This is card of death or
Oh
something.
yeah, so I didn't know that. Yeah, I didn't realize. So like, yeah, Ace of Spades, means like bad luck or death. Yeah, I had no idea about that. Yeah, I was just like, why does this matter? That it's the Ace of Spades?
They kind of make a point out of it, but then they brush that point off really quickly. He's like, whatever.
He just shrugs. It's so funny. I guess that does kind of sum up his character. He's just like permanently going down this path of destruction very mindlessly. And then we get another ridiculous scene. So he's murdered Alice and he's got her in the car next to him. And we've got this really long shot of her like constantly, her body sort of flopping down and he's having to lift her up, or her eyes are opening, or her mouth is hanging open. And it just goes for fucking ages.
It does.
It's so long. I got another IMDb goof for you as well.
That's not a real corpse.
IMDb goof. Alice is obviously alive while in the car, squinting to see what Brett Halsey is doing to know when to do her part.
Seriously? Did someone write that? Fuck.
What a goof.
Is that...
That's an actual goof on IMDb.
Crazy. Are they just like taking the piss? Like, is that they can't really think that?
I think they do.
Seriously.
It is funny to think that someone was like, watch that scene and they're like, oh, look at this. She's clearly alive. Well, let me get onto IMDb and put a goof up.
Oh my god.
Have I ever told you about all the fake IMDb trivia that I've added to IMDb over the years?
No, what the fuck?
Some of it is still on there. I've added like fake quotes and all. I'll tell you about it later.
Oh, okay.
So eventually, he finally, after like getting her sitting up straight, he drives off. But who does he run into?
Well, there's like a police barricade type thing. Well, not so far as a barricade, but a police stop up ahead. And the police officer's like, license and registration. And she's in the fucking passenger seat looking like Casper with a yeast infection. She was absolutely terrible. She's so white and pasty.
She's so clearly dead, right?
Yeah.
Casper with a yeast.
She's like all this like shit stuck to her face. and he's like, oh, what was the problem? And he like points to a sign. Apparently he was speeding or something. And she's still kind of like falling down.
Flopping about.
But again, this doesn't lead anywhere.
Yeah, it's just
it's so pointless.
I love the music in this is like such goofball music as well. Like, like, what's Lester gotten himself into now? And I love his reaction, like with the speeding. He's like, but I wasn't. and he like rolls his eyes.
Yeah. So curious. So you went back saying like the comedy stuff. This was all his idea.
Yeah.
So in the original script, I don't know if you know this or not, but it would have played out like same like he would have put the body in the car, but it was Lester who chose, or Lester the actor
Brett Halsey,
who chose to perform it in this comedy style. Right.
Yeah. So the script was apparently completely straight, not funny, like fully dead serious.
Wow.
Horror mystery, and he is the one that encouraged Fulci to turn it into this utterly bonkers kind of thing.
That's great.
It's great.
Yeah,
It's
I love
amazing.
it. I absolutely love it.
It
probably sounds so stupid the way we've been describing it. It's like her legs keep popping out the trunk,
and it is.
She keeps falling over, and it's
but
so
it's great.
But it works so well, and I think that is down to the actor and his reactions in this.
He's really great.
Yeah.
So then we're back to the TV, and we see old mate maggot kisser Thomas from the Murder Secret as the news reporter,
the gardener,
and he's talking about the latest murder again. Then we get the bit I talked about at the start. The worst thing in this film. I really wish it wasn't in this film, but we get this really unpleasant shot of Reginald, our mate. He's like eating meat from his thing, and he just gets kicked. Like Brett Halsey kicks him across the room, and it's clearly, it's obviously real as well. And it really surprised me, this shot, because Fulci has a reputation for being a real animal and cat lover. So it's like, why did you fucking feel the need to boot this cat?
It was so unnecessary.
Yeah, totally unnecessary.
That's like, what did Reginald ever do?
Yeah. It is the worst thing in this film. Way more offensive than anything else that's in this film.
Yeah.
Because it's real.
Unfortunately,
We'll move on from Reginald's booting across the room. But yeah, Lester's listening to the news report, getting more stressed out. The news announces that they've found the killer's blood type. And he's like, fuck, that's my blood type. And he goes to listen to the tape recorder to get some advice from himself. But he stops himself. He like kind of... So this is the beginning of like a bit of a break in his communication with himself or whatever that might be.
But I like that there were like, blood on the murder weapon because he used the whip as well, right? So there wouldn't have been any blood anyway.
Maybe from the slaps across the face.
This is some good old slaps.
The opera slaps, yeah. So he goes back to see the bookie boys again. The bookies, Randy, and so like Randy is there with the same bookie guy before, and this old man is hanging out with him as well. And Randy's like, the office is closed, no horse bets happening at the moment. The police have tapped the phone, but Lester's just desperate to bet some money. Randy invites him to play a game of cards. Yeah, Lester he's just an idiot, right? He has the not only bad luck, but he's just a dumb.
He's a born loser.
He's a born loser. He's an idiot, and he's making these like big bets, like huge amounts of money, and he's asking Randy for credit, asking for 10,000. He puts down 5,000. The old man folds, the other bookie folds, and then Randy matches it with 10,000. When they put down their cards, of course, Lester has lost. Randy's beaten him, so he's got 1 week to pay Randy.
And he's sweating like a fucking pig in this. He looks so haggard. It's great.
Oh, man, he's just really, really messed up. After this stroke of bad luck, we get my favorite line in the whole film.
Okay.
I wonder if I don't know why I find it so... Maybe it's not that funny, but the more times I watch this, the funnier I find it each time. But he goes back to his house, and the phone rings, and he picks it up, and he starts recording it on the answering machine. And the person doesn't say who it is. So the person on the other line's like, take a guess. And Lester says,
I don't play guessing games on the telephone.
There's something very, very funny about that line.
I didn't register that one. Yeah.
It's just such a hilarious thing to hear out of context. Yeah, the voice is the voice.
It's his
that's on
voice,
the recorder,
isn't it?
himself. Yeah, the voice starts saying that he's the killer, right?
Yeah.
And Lester's like, why do you want to destroy me? And the voice is saying like, no, I don't want to at all. Like, in fact, I'm linked to you, and we're close enough to touch right now. And Lester looks over to a curtain, like blowing in the room.
I loved that. This was another one of those moments when my partner walked into the room. She's like, "The fuck!" Like because there's like this. He's on the phone and he said, "I'm closer than you think," and we get this sound of the wind, but it's like a really strong sound. It's like, yeah. And when he looks over the curtain, it's like very flimsily blowing. It's like someone's at the other side, just like lightly patting it with their hand. And my partner was like, "Should be moving more if there's that much wind. This is terrible."
Oh boy. But yeah, like the voice refuses to say where he's calling from, hangs up.
And the next scene is the one that really confused me. Because for me, at least, this is the most jarring scene where I really felt lost as to how we ended up here. So he's at the stable.
Yeah, he goes to like the horse racing track. Right?
Yeah. And he's looking for the guy who was on the other side of the phone, which doesn't make any sense. Because
I have no idea.
We don't know. We didn't get any information of who was on the other side of the line, the phone. So he's kind of walking around, looking around. Why did he go there? We don't know. He finds this kind of hut, which seems to be kind of abandoned, or it's just like uses a warehouse or something. He breaks in,
and as he breaks in, he like kicks something across the room, and it's Reginald's food bowl.
Yeah,
and he's like, "What the fuck?" And then a shadow of a cat runs past, like a shadow of Reginald.
Yeah. And it's like freaky stuff afoot. It kind of gets all a bit like Twilight Zone-esque. We don't really know what's going on. Music gets a bit freaky. But I was going to say, the thing I did love about this is the whole time you get the horse race commentary playing. And as the scene progresses and the tension escalates, it's like the race is also proceeding. So you get the escalation in tension from the commentary as well. And that was a really, really great way to show the elevation in tension.
Yeah, but it is such a strange scene, but he's walking down this hallway. He's like suddenly in like what seems to be a totally different place after he leaves this hut. And we keep cutting to his shadow, but we're like, is it his shadow? Is it someone else's shadow? It's very like jarringly sort of cut together.
Yeah.
And then he goes into this storage room and we cut to like what looks like his shadow running across like through the room, but he's not actually moving. And he walks around this space and he finds a phone sitting on the ground. And then a piece of paper, he opens it up and it's got his name and phone number on it. And there's all these sounds, but he can't see anyone. So like things are like moving and bumping, and
it sounds better than it actually is.
Yeah.
Because the moving and the bumping is literally just like an oil can, just like.
shaking,
But that's enough to spook him out, though.
He's very spooked. Yeah, he feels like someone's watching him, but we don't see anyone. And then suddenly he just freaks out.
Yeah.
And runs out the door.
Which is another thing, because up until this point, he was chasing the shadow, essentially. He thought someone was there, he was trying to find them, he was chasing them, and then we don't really get any big change in scene. Nothing really happens that freaks him out.
He just
apart
panics.
from an oil drum just like wobbling a little bit.
Yeah.
But suddenly he's just like, no, fuck! And the music starts kicking off and he just starts running. And he's running like a lunatic, as if his life depends on it. But us as the viewer, like, hang on, what happened?
Yeah, it's very, very strange. But yeah, he runs out, he ends up falling over and he runs across like a creek or like a stream.
What was he doing in a stream?
I don't know, and he's like soaking wet, like fucking soaked to the bone. And yeah, gets back in his car all wet as hell, then just back to his house.
Yeah, like what was that about?
strange.
What was that about? That entire scene could have just taken place like within his home.
It's very odd, that whole sequence. I do love though, like after he's been all wet and had this experience, it's just him in the shower and he's really angrily showering. He's like, fucking goddamn it. Like, he's really pissed off. He's just so great throughout this film. So he's out of the shower after this weird sequence. The phone rings again. He thinks it's going to be the voice, so he's instantly kind of apprehensive answering the phone. But it's a woman who's got the wrong number, and he's just pissed off about it. He's like, call the right number. What are you doing?
He has a great line, and he goes, well, hang up and try again, but this time more carefully.
Yeah, she calls again and gets him again, of course. And this time he calms down a bit and starts talking to her a bit more. And we have possibly the most upsetting cut of the whole film.
It's not
where
a good one.
Cut to the woman he's on the phone with. And it's just a fucking horrendous cut to this close-up shot of her lips. Like really close in on her upper lip, where she's got a massive deformity on her like, upper lip, like this sort of brown mess on her upper mouth. Like it's kind of like a, what do you call it?
Like a hair lip, yeah.
But brown. And just it's so intense, like the cut.
Yeah.
And it pulls out slowly from this this deformity. Yeah, she's played by Zora Kurova. She's a Czech actress. Did you recognize her?
No, what's she been in?
She's in a lot of stuff, but she's in Cannibal Ferox.
Oh,
and
fuck.
I think she's in. Is it pronounced Anthropophagus?
Oh,
Is that how you say it?
yeah. I don't know what's the correct way to say it.
She's in a bunch of stuff, and yeah, she's a very attractive woman that they've made look horrendous in this with this like lip deformity thing. But she just like, I love that she just tells Lester everything straight away. She's like, well, I'm a rich widow, and oh, I love your voice. I wish you could wake me up every day. She's just like instantly in love with him. And also in her room, did you see the decor in her room?
It's like a fucking goose or something.
Yeah, she's got a massive dead swan, like stuffed swan, just in her room. Like it's so fucking full on. And it's like the way Fulci
That's like in the foreframe, though.
I was gonna say that. The way Fulci shows it, it's like at first it's like you're like, oh fuck, it's like a fucking dead swan in the background, and then it just cuts to it in the front of the shot. Oh, it's so
unnecessary.
But I love like Lester is just like, fuck yeah, didn't even have to look at the Lonely Hearts for this one.
I loved it because after she was like, I'm a lonely widow, and oh, that could cost you quite a lot for me to wake you up every day. Like he clearly he has a very sudden change in mind.
Yeah.
He sees a chance and he takes it.
He's ready to go.
Yeah.
So she hangs up and we get this
So they arrange to meet, don't they?
Yeah, they arrange a meeting. After she hangs up, she puts her lipstick on, and it just lingers on that deformity. It's really awful.
It's a bit grim.
It's very, very grim. So Lester's watching TV again. We get another description of him.
I love it. So now we know he has dark hair. They have the witness description, right? So we know he has dark hair, no beard now, and no glasses. So they've caught up with him and his current looks. So he has to change his look again.
Yeah.
And what does he do? Dye his hair blonde. And gets these like fucking Jeffrey Dahmer-esque glasses going on. And this is a weird shot because he has this these new glasses, this new hair, and he is wearing this kind of dark blue suit, and he gets into the car, drives over to see his new deformity lady.
Deformity lady.
But then when he arrives, he's wearing a completely different suit, and he looks fucking ridiculous. He's wearing this sky blue suit with a white shirt, this bleached blonde hair, these glasses. And I mean, it's supposed to signify the passing of time, because apparently now they've been dating for quite a long time.
She's completely in love with him at this point. Yeah, it feels like he's about to just drive and meet her for the first time. So it's quite like, whoa, hang on, he's wearing something different, and why are they talking like this? And
you have to try and play catch up, because it seems like so much has happened from the time that he went to her house to the time that he arrived at her house.
Very shakily delivered there.
He looks so dumb.
Yeah, he does look ridiculous. I also love, like, the first cut to seeing them, she's like feeding some swans as well. After we've seen that dead swan, she fucking loves swans, I guess. And like her house is outrageous. It's like this ridiculous, like super Italian looking, big, fancy, got a big pool. And oh my god, Brett Halsey in this scene is so fucking funny.
The best.
It just the whole time she's talking, he's just staring at her deformed mouth with this look of just like disgust on his face. It's ridiculous. And yeah, she's telling him that she loves him, but he's just staring at that.
He's like wincing. He's just like, oh god,
it's so absurd.
I was really laughing at this. His facial expressions are too good. Yeah, I think what she says, like,
what you've done for me is like a miracle. It's something incredible. It's as though you brought me back to life.
And he just can't bear to look at her. His face is grimacing the whole time.
Yeah, at one point they're like dancing by the pool, and she's got her eyes closed, and he's just staring at her, like just hating every second of it. And she keeps, like, with her eyes closed, she keeps kissing the air as well.
God.
She kind of like pushes him to say like, oh, what's wrong? You seem really down. You know, I want you to be honest with me, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, he tells her that he's made some bad investments and they're coming for him.
Yeah.
He needs some money. He needs $200,000. Virginia. Have we said her name yet?
Virginia.
Oh, it's Virginia.
You
there
just
you go.
bloody did.
So, lip deformity Virginia. She says, all right, we can make an arrangement.
Lip deformity Virginia.
She's like, what collateral do you have? And he's like, the only thing I've got is my house. And she's like, all right, let's put the house in my name, lip deformity Virginia. And, you know, when you give me back the money, we can tear up that contract. Yeah. And while he's listening to her, we see this absolutely fucking mental shot where he's sort of rubbing his hands together, and then it cuts back to him again, and he's got a nutcracker that appears out of nowhere, or nutcracker or lobster cracker, as we'll find out later. And then it cuts back again, and it's gone. So that's weird, but it does come back later on in the film. So Lester's like, let's get a lobster and champagne to celebrate.
He's like, we need to celebrate. I was like, mate, get a lobster. You got no fucking money. You're just asking for $200,000. And you're saying, let's get lobster and champagne. He's like, what are you celebrating? What's there to celebrate?
But he feels like his problem is solved, right? So he goes back to his car, and then he's like, wait, where's my shadow?
Where's my shadow?
Probably the most insane twist of the film. He notices that his shadow is gone.
That's right. But then it says, like, it's the same, like, what you said when he turns over the edge of space. He's like, oh well. And he just carries on going.
My shadow's gone. Anyway, he drives off. Yeah.
Where's my shadow?
Oh, so weird. So he tries to go back to his house, but who's there?
The bloody bookies.
Oh, the bookies are there. Randy and Randy's mate are there, and they see him. They pull out a gun to like shoot him. But luckily, I don't know. He's not a very nice guy. But anyway, luckily for him, he manages to escape and goes and stays at a motel and books a ticket to Vegas.
Another one which I was like, back to the day when booking flights by phone.
Yeah.
But he's got a great line.
Yeah. I was going to say, yeah.
The name is Parson. Lester Parson. That's right. Almost like a person. But not quite.
I'm not going to lie. I thought that was actually quite a great line because he's like such a twisted guy. And it's like quite a nice summary of who he is, right?
And then he's like, all right, I'll pick it up later. And I was like, oh, yeah, fuck. So what? Back then you had to go and pick up your flight tickets?
What a pain in the ass.
Can you imagine?
It's already enough of a pain of the ass now to get a flight, right?
In the middle of bloody Italy or America, depending on the street they're in. Yeah, dude, that would have been a right faff. Jesus. So he goes to Virginia Mouth Deformity.
Yeah, he goes to see old lip deformity Virginia, and he's got a big bag with a lobster in it. So fucking great. But he goes to see Virginia and he's like, oh, have you got the money? Yeah. It's very tense, right? You can tell she knows that something's up.
She's in a bad mood,
fuck, mate, we're coming up to my favourite moment of the film. But yeah, Lester takes out the lobster in the kitchen and we see the lobster Kraken device that we saw in the imagination,
Did you hear what he calls the lobster?
How can you talk business in front of our noble crustacean guests?
That's got to be a Brett Halsey ad-lib moment there for sure.
Like, she's asking about the lawyers, and he's like, not in front of our noble crustacean guests.
Yeah, that's right. I do remember that. So he preps the lobster, comes out with the lobster and champagne.
Preps. He's got fucking 2 cold lobsters wrapped in fucking tinfoil that he just puts on a plate.
Oh, and he's pocketed the Kraken device.
The Kraken device.
Kraken device.
Bring out the Kraken.
I don't know what you call it. It is a nut cracker, but I guess you can use it for lobster.
You need a whole bloody toolbox to eat a lobster.
Yeah, lobster is like, it's just a pain in the ass.
It's more effort than it's worth.
Yeah, it's not worth it.
No, man.
I mean, it tastes good, but come on.
Not that good.
Not that, yeah. I'd rather eat a big old steak. So he comes out, he's like, oh, Virginia, you look like an angel. And he tells her to close her eyes, and he pulls out the Kraken device that's going to soon become a murder device. And he starts walking up to her, but then she opens her eyes and pulls out a gun.
That's right.
She says that she watched the news and she's recorded it. We watch what she's recorded. And this is oh my God. I had forgotten how funny this was. So the news report is like, oh, we now have an identikit of the murderer. We now know what he looks like. Yeah. And then we cut to this identikit picture, and it is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. It looks fucking nothing like him. It doesn't even look like a person. This ridiculous image.
It's like a fucking collage of photographs. Where they put like 2 different eyes, a nose, and a mouth together. It's like so ridiculous.
I love Lester's reaction. He's like, well, that doesn't really look much like me. And Virginia's like, no, it's clearly you.
I watched it twice. I was like, I still cannot find the similarities.
There's nothing like him. But anyway, Lester tries to get the gun away from her, and she shoots him, blasts him in the chest, squibs ahoy, and he rolls about. He's like sort of rolling across the room on the walls, dying. He goes into the car park. Virginia has a fucking car park in her house, like a big, massive car. I guess she's very, very rich. He's like dying slowly, and as he's dying, his shadow is there on the wall, also dying. Yeah. Sort of hunched over. And the shadow is like, this is the end of the line for us, Lester.
Shadow's explaining his death to him.
So weird. And then, like, but as the Shadow's dying, there is a really cool shot where the Shadow sort of shrinks back down and back over to Lester.
Yeah.
It's just so weird. There's no real explanation to any of this.
It's quite a poetic ending.
Yeah,
isn't
yeah.
it?
It's
all
quite
things considered.
Weird and sad and strange and yeah, but that's it. He just
dies, and that's it. Immediately cut
Bang,
to credits. Yeah.
Most fucking intense.
What's that about? What's that about?
Man, what a absolutely insane film.
Yeah, I mean, I get that there was some sort of split personality thing going on with the fact that, you know, he was listening to his own recordings and getting calls from himself. So you can kind of see where they try to go with the Shadow being like a separate part of him.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, it wasn't really anything.
It's weird, like, I think just us talking about it has made me realize how much this film is like a messy version of American Psycho, where I can see what it's trying to do, that kind of thing of like, we don't know what's real and like, but it just ends up being very confusing ultimately.
Yeah. And the thing that I realized after talking about it, I mean, I kind of thought about it whilst I was watching it, but it really dawned upon me now about how much of a mess this film is and how half-assed it's been made, where they just appear in these random places and they have all these like subplots that lead to nowhere and these half-thought-out things.
I feel like it's maybe not so much half-assed in the way it's made, but more just they just couldn't do it properly. Like, I think he had so many problems with the budget on this that I feel like they probably didn't get the coverage they needed. And but either way, no matter, even with that aside, it is still tonally so crazy, and the way it sort of changes halfway through into a different film, and like the insane kind of mix of this extreme violence. Like those violent scenes are probably the most violent scenes in any Fulci film, possibly. Like they are really fucked. And then at the same time, it's this ridiculous goofball comedy. Yeah. But I mean, that is the reason I love this film as well. I really love this movie.
I loved it. I thought it was great. I was cracking up, laughing my ass off at the really dumb shit. The gore, when it was there, was great. And I did enjoy the idea of him becoming a separate entity from his shadow. I think that's a cool idea. It would have been cool if that was explored a little bit more. Yeah. But I understand that, there's only so much they could do.
It definitely doesn't quite get there, but I also kind of love the lack of coherency with this as well. I think it kind of adds to the madness of it in a way as well.
It feels like too many like ideas in one film to really fully explore.
That's true, yeah.
But that is also just part of the charm because I totally really enjoyed this film.
I totally agree. I think it's technically a worse film because of that, but it's a more interesting film because of it as well, because it's just such a weird mixed bag of lunacy, this film.
So much better than The Murder Secret, I'm going to say.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I wanted to talk a little bit about, I said at the start about Fulci's relationship with women, maybe a bit about him and his life. I'm sure you've heard stuff about that before. Like, a lot has been said about Fulci being quite a misogynist in the way he presents women, and I think this film is a pretty good opportunity to talk about that.
Oh yeah, because
this film, as silly as it is, I think it's like quite an amazing insight into Fulci's psyche in a lot of ways. So this film is so, when it's violent, it is so angry and hateful in the way it like presents its like female characters. But I also think it's like really, it is, don't get me wrong, it's a silly, dumb movie, but it's also very complex. And I feel like it's filled with this self-loathing as well. Like the way that Virginia kind of deals with Lester, it's just, it really shows how pathetic he is. So he is this really pathetic character. Oh, there's so much going on in this, I think, that's like Fulci's brain, like an insight into it. But I wanted to talk a bit about Fulci and women. So I'm sure you've heard with the New York Ripper, that's kind of the main film that comes up with, you know, people calling him a misogynist, essentially. One of the writers on that film, Dardano Sakeci, he was saying with Fulci, that film, all of the kind of, you know, sadism towards women in that film was from him, from Fulci only, not the other writers. He said about Fulci nurtures a profound sadism towards women.
Oh, wow.
So that was his opinion on that.
Profound sadism.
Yeah, which is quite an intense quote, right? And, you know, on sets, he's like very famous for being awful to people, and in particular, women. So again, going back to old mate Al Cliver, big mustache boy, he's got some pretty amazing stories about Fulci on set. He says about Fulci, he was the worst with actresses. He would make them cry. They would burst into tears. I've never seen a man treat women like that to this day. And he tells this story that this is quite fucked. It's like a little bit funny, but also very fucked.
Fucking hell, right, here we go.
So, Zombie, great film. Do you remember Oretta Gay is her name? She's one of the main actresses in it. She's the one that when the zombie shark comes out, she's like underwater in that scene.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, here's a story about her from Al Cliver talking about the production of that. So apparently she was terrified of deep water, and Fulci made her dive to get right down to the bottom. She was shaking, but he screamed at her so bad and made her stay under. She was so frightened well, let's just say we saw a piece of shit floating up in the water. That is what his temperament had accomplished. So instead of apologizing, he called her Caca Gay for the rest of the shoot. So her name's Oretta Gay, and he just called her Caca Gay for the rest of the shoot. Isn't that
That's
fucked?
Jesus.
Like, it's insane. But then I don't want to give like just one black and white side to him, right? Like, I think there's more to it than just that. So he also wrote some quite strong female characters in his films, and a lot of his leading actresses really loved working with him. You know, once they got to know him and worked with him again and again. And he was like a deeply broken man. I think it's important to remember that. Not saying giving excuses for his behavior, but he had a life filled with tragedy. His wife committed suicide. Right. His daughter was paralyzed in an accident. We talked about that in the Murder Secret episode. So these are not an excuse, but it kind of might explain, you know, his attitude and instability. So he was like a really troubled guy. Did you also know, I didn't know this until researching this episode, a lot of people think that his death was actually a suicide.
No, I never heard that.
I thought that he died from diabetes complications, but the Tramp actor guy, Di Stefano, so in that featurette, he claims that Fulci killed himself because of relating to the delays of the production of his film with Argento. So his last film was he had a film planned to make with Argento producing. They kind of made up.
Oh, really?
They were going to make this film called The Wax Mask.
Right.
And it was all like happening, but there was all these like delays with the production, with money, and he was apparently very depressed. And when they found him when he was dead, he was apparently had stopped taking his insulin, and he had eaten all these chocolates and stuff, and they think he had basically committed suicide.
Christ almighty.
That's like one that might not be true, but
that's a very
theory.
Mad way to commit suicide.
Yeah, very, very nuts. And actually, Argento paid for Fulci's funeral, which is just crazy. Like, I didn't know any of these things before researching this.
Damn. But I wonder what, I mean, you said like Fulci hated Argento. I wonder what Argento's thoughts on Fulci were, like in their kind of heyday when they were, I'm not going to say rivals, but at least from like a fan's point of view, you know, in a way rivals.
I've never heard Argento talking about him. I think Fulci's he was more outwardly, what's the word? Like, he didn't give a fuck when he would just openly, when you watch extra features interviews with him, he just bitches about everybody from Wes Craven to Argento.
Oh, awesome.
So I've never heard Argento say much about him, but yeah, I'd be interested to know too. So with that kind of complex idea of Fulci and his thoughts on women and all that sort of thing, I wanted to wrap that up with Sacha Darwin, so the mustache bearded lady.
Yeah.
I watched this interview with her where she gave this really interesting view of Fulci. And I quoted this a little bit in The Murder Secret, but I wanted to give like the full thing that she says about him. Maybe you might remember on The Murder Secret, I said that she described Fulci as being like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, having these two sides to his personality. So this is the full thing that she says about him. When working, he was a terrible man if one wasn't familiar with who he was. If there wasn't an effort to want to know him, you'd be left with that first impression. But if you wanted to know the other side of Lucio Fulci, like I did, you'd see that he was a very human man, very kind, a man that had gone through a lot of suffering throughout his life. It was something you could really feel, especially in Touch of Death. So she mentions that as being a film that's like sums up his personality, basically. I believe this is the most misogynistic movie ever made by Lucio Fulci. I believe it is the movie where he was able to free himself. Not that he hated women, on the contrary, he loved them, but sometimes, certainly, he was afraid of them. To avoid that fear of suffering, he put up a wall. When I got to know him well, I could understand that about Lucio. He was extremely nice and human, and I'm thrilled and honored to have reached that place to know him beyond the working situation. And that's the memory I want to retain of Lucio Fulci. So it's like, she's like, this film's fucked and misogynistic, but it seemed to be more of a fear of women than a hatred.
Right.
Yeah, I just thought it was an interesting...
A lot of divided opinions about the man.
Yeah, he's a complex character.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, I just thought this film is, as silly as it is such a fascinating look at him as a person.
It definitely has something to say about the director itself.
Yeah, definitely.
100%. This is an odd film, and I have two essentially opposing thoughts about this film. And when you first told me about this film, when I first heard about this film, was when we did The Murder Secret, and you kind of just briefly, like, oh, it's this film about a man who kills women with deformities. Yeah. And I was like, well, that sounds fucked. And in my head, I was thinking like, almost like William Lustig from Maniac going around and like murdering wheelchair-bound women or something for only because they had deformities. Like, in my head, it was like he was murdering them because they were deformed. And he hated deformed people, or deformed women, in my head only.
Yeah.
So when I watched this, and I was like, oh, so it's actually quite a relatively complex character, and it's not because they solely have deformities, because that would be extremely exploitive.
Yeah.
He actually has a motive. He's after them for their money, etc., and he's killing them for that. So in that sense, I thought it was not as exploitive as I thought it would be. But on the opposite side of that, there is absolutely no need for them to have these deformities.
Yeah, exactly. That's what every time I watch this, I'm like, why did he make that decision?
It's so unnecessary, and the plot would have been exactly the same, whether they had these deformities or not.
They could have just been lonely widows.
Yeah.
Like, to add in, like, your hairy moles all over them and beards. It feels angry. It feels hate.
Yeah.
Like, it's such a... Yeah, it's so weird. It's such a bizarre sort of choice, right?
That's it. So in that, like I said, my first thought, it's not as exploitive as I thought it'd be because it wasn't this film. But on the other side, because it is so unnecessary to the plot, it's in a way more exploitive.
Yeah.
So in that sense, this film is mad. Yeah. And it really has something to say about the director. And I wonder why he chose to put that in.
I feel like it comes from a place of misogyny, I do think. I do think it is that. Or like just as... you know, Sacha Darwin said, like, a fear of women or something. Because it is so... He hates those characters.
Yeah.
The women in this are just... Other than Virginia, perhaps, but, like, they're all just shown as being completely mindless, repulsive creatures, basically.
Yeah.
It's really quite full on. Like, it's quite an intense thing to see.
Yeah. And it's also kind of funny that the fact that all the women in this who do get murdered, they are actually nice people as well. Yeah, they're all good people.
Nothing. They've done nothing to deserve this. Yeah, it's other than his kind of hatred of them for being in his mind ugly or annoying or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh boy, should we get to the old wrongometer then?
Do it.
So how wrong the film is, how fucked it is, how much it shouldn't exist, perhaps. I'm going to go pretty high with this because of all the things we've talked about, the unnecessary elements that are in the film and the weird tonal shifts and just how jarring everything is.
Yeah.
I'm going to go for an 8 for this one. How about you?
Initially, I was thinking about a 6 initially. And one of the big reasons for that was the fact that the gore just evaporates within like 20 minutes or whatever into the film and turns into something completely different. And I really wanted more of that ridiculous gore and then mixed in with the ridiculous humor. But after hearing everything and revisiting it in my mind, I'm gonna, for a first for me, I'm going to the point mark. I'm giving it a 7.5.
Nice.
Which I've not done before. That's a controversial one for me. It was a great film. Tonally fucked. I don't know if I wanted it to be more of a gore film and carry on that gore, or I wanted them to really explore the separation from his shadow more.
Yeah.
I'm kind of like conflicted within my own emotions on this.
I know what you mean. Like there's just too much going on. So you want everything explored.
Yeah. And it's not really that long of a movie
It's like
either.
80 minutes or something.
So they really jammed so much into this. But then also going back to what you said before, this was made for TV.
Yeah.
It's like,
Imagine seeing this
whoever
on TV.
thought that was a good idea?
I mean, that's the same with The Murder Secret as well. It's like, how you can't put this on TV.
No.
It just does not belong on TV.
Yeah.
Oh man, what a strange film. But yeah, this one is very easy to access. So definitely, especially if you're a Fulci fan, this is a must see. All right, what do we got next time?
Well, next time we are going to an undisclosed location because this is a very, very geographically complicated movie. But we'll be visiting somewhere.
Yeah.
For Night Evil Soul from 1981.
One more time. Night
Evil Soul.
Okay.
But this has about a dozen other titles it's also known as.
Okay.
And don't quote me on that year, because that also could be wrong.
Right. Well, we'll find out more next time. So Night Evil Soul.
Or not. From 1981. Or not.
Yeah.
From Taiwan. Or not. Join us next time.
So, yeah, if you want to watch that before next time, just Google Night Evil Soul. Maybe 1981, maybe Taiwan. And you might find it, perhaps.
There you go.
All right, and as we mentioned at the start, I'll do it one more time. But yeah, do follow us on Twitter at SMSW Podcast. And you can shoot us an email at showmesomethingwrong@gmail.com. And please do a review or at least a rating. That would be really helpful if you go to Apple Podcasts and do that. We'll see you for
I forgot the bloody title.
Night Evil Soul?
Maybe.
Was that it?
Well, I don't know.
Oh, shit.
I'll have to tell you later, mate.
We'll see you for that.
It's a little too shrill, Reginald.